Welcome to this special awards ceremony. Welcome to Melly. Welcome to our online viewers. This afternoon we will celebrate the special and very important behind the stage work in the art field. Last year, Melly celebrated its 30th birthday with the introduction of an awards program that focuses on the cultural ecosystem. We will speak about it later. There are 3 awards. The Maker Achter de Maker Award, I'm allowed to pronounce it in Dutch. The Makers of the Makers Award, the Barry KOEDAM Award, and the Visionary Award. My name is Ernest from the Kwast, and I'm very honored to present this ceremony. I think the prizes, I really like the prizes because of the unique character that they honor people who are normally not in the spotlights, and that's a very good thing about it. The first award is the Maker Achter de Maker Award, the Makers Behind the Makers Award. This award honors creators whose impeccable craftsmanship and supportive collaboration has been indispensable for a visual artist. I didn't know the winner of the award, and I think that says enough. But I fell in love with him, actually. And I think he has been nominated by many artists. And I think we will show a clip that will introduce him to you, if you don't know him already. And I think you want to work immediately with him as well. Let's watch the clip.
Charly van Rest. Ik ben beeldend kunstenaar, fotograaf, knutselaar, geluidsontwerper en een klein beetje geluidstechnicus.
Wat is die Charly van Rest nou eigenlijk? Is het nou een kunstenaar of is dat een muzikant? Of is het een of andere lanterfant? Ik ben nogal veranderlijk van karakter, zeg maar. Iets gaat snel vervelen en gelukkig kan ik dan terugvallen op die andere hobby's. Zoals nu heb ik de laatste tijd heel veel muzikale elementen proberen te betrekken bij mijn soundscapes. Het creatieve proces is als je daar een eenheid van moet maken. Ik heb dat geleerd door veel in tijdschriften te snuffelen en helaas door de fouten die je maakt in de praktijk. Het meest voor de hand liggen is natuurlijk een ventilator die op de achtergrond loopt te loeien. Of verkeer, lawaai, stadslawaai, telefoons die afgaan. Vogels die lopen te piepen waar je niet op zit te wachten. En die moet je dan achteraf weghalen, die geluiden. Een ander probleem wat ook vaak voorkomt is dat er helemaal geen geluid is. Aangezien ik zelf niet echt een instrument bespeel, werk ik voornamelijk met samples. Voor de rest verzamel ik alle geluiden die ik maar kan bemachtigen. Of hier in de ruimte folieopname gaan maken. Dan leg ik bijvoorbeeld een stenen vloertje neer. En dan loop ik op het beeld, zink mee. Of ik ga naar buiten met een bierblikje. En die laat ik dan rollen over de stoep. Alsof die weggewaaid wordt. Ja, dat soort dingen, ja, dat doe ik wel. Ja, dat is het leuke van deze studio, van geluid. Dat je elke keer een andere persoon in de studio krijgt. Meestal kunstenaars natuurlijk, maar soms ook architecten of wat dan ook. Filmers. Dat vereist ook een soort flexibiliteit. Vooral dat je mee kan denken, mee kan voelen wat een opdrachtgever wil eigenlijk. En dat creatieve proces, dat technische proces, dat is er wat uiteindelijk hopelijk een fingerprint geeft van de maker en iets unieks toevoegt. Bij muziek word ik ook vaak gelukkig. Dat is duidelijk. Je gaat bewegen, je gevoel wordt erdoor geraakt. Dus dat is met geluid minder, tenzij je daarop gefocust bent. Dan is geluid ook, kan je ook een behoorlijke kick geven.
The clip was made by Robert-Jan Koeiers. There will be two other clips to be seen, but I first want to ask you, Charly, to get on stage, and with you two of your many artist nominators, Priscilla Femandez and Mirjam Somers. Welcome. Hello. Charly, to start with you, you're the first one to receive this prize. What was your first thought when you heard the news? It was already a while ago.
It was in the beginning of this year. I heard it, and it was quite shocking because you never think about it that someone behind the maker is rewarded, and I couldn't believe it. But okay, 5,000 euros, I like that.
How does the how does the appreciation normally do artists with whom you work say the recognition?
Certainly. It is normally when you do something and you finish the job okay, they come back. Even after 10 times, they come back. But if you make one mistake, you never see them again. It's I don't know why, but that is the way things goes.
What can be a mistake?
Yes, for example, you have a deadline, and you're waiting for the companion who is helping you, and he's not coming up. So you think, oh, now there is a lack in the soundscape or in the music, and then you cannot help it, and the client is gone. It's that is my experience. That I think it's everywhere like that. If it is business, then it has to be always good.
You work with visual artists a lot. Two of them are here on the stage.
Yes.
But in the clip, you mention as well architects. What do they ask Charly van Rest?
Well, this is also the same. They have a film about their latest building, and they have mostly they have their own filmers, but filming and sound are two different things. And then when you hear it, the image is okay, the film is okay, but the sound is lacking something. And then, so from the one to the other, they come to me if I can fix it. And that is what I mostly do, fixing, restoring sound that is forgotten during the filming process.
Okay.
Yes.
It's very. I really like that. Priscilla, how would you describe your work with Charly?
I'm a returning client.
First of all.
Yeah, so we've worked together in 2 projects, and we are currently working on the 3rd one right now, about to. And it's wonderful because Charly, I think he knows what I need before I do. He's ahead of what I think I need for as a soundscape. Charlie is incredibly generous. He's very patient. He's always willing to think along with you, to test things out, to compare, to make experiments. And he really goes out of the way, like that clip that you saw with him with a can outside. Charlie
That's
really...
typical.
Yes, that's typical Charlie. Yeah, he goes all out of his way to find what is needed for the.
What kind of noise are you trying to make?
No, it's
Too many compliments.
Too many compliments. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you.
But so I'm very happy that Charlie is getting this award, because it's necessary to have this recognition of his work. But we also have to celebrate the fact that Charlie is an artist and has a long career behind him. And that makes us also colleagues and similar minds that connects us.
Being both artists, that he can think with you.
Yes, yes, yeah, that he understands what I want. And that's what connected also many of the artists that work with Charlie. That's what connects me also to Mirjam Somers, that is here. And that's what connects us to an owl.
To an owl?
Yes.
Could you tell a bit more about the owl, Mirjam?
At 7 minutes and 22 seconds in Priscilla's audio play, In Darkness All Cats Are Grey, we hear an owl and screaming in darkness. And in my film, we hear exactly the same owl at one point, 1 minute and 58 seconds. So Priscilla and I were connected long time before we started.
Is it the same owl?
So
Or did you use two different owls?
I don't know what they are talking about,
No.
but I feel very
Are you
honored
afraid that you have to give it back?
that the
we are-
clients are coming to me with,
are-
like this, with owls.
We are all connected by this owl.
yeah.
And how does he bring your artwork to a higher level, Charlie?
Yeah, what Priscilla already said. I worked since 2006 with all my video works. I go to Charlie, and he's not just adding sounds. He is really adding a new layer. And every time when I go to the studio to hear the first edit, it's like I enter the three-dimensional world, and I really can enter my own video work, and gives me another understanding, a different understanding of my own work. And I think that's very special. And to illustrate how he also puts my work on another level is, and also about his generosity. We just finished my video work, Guardian. And after 2 weeks he called me and he said, I have a present for you. And I said, oh, I said, I made a new soundscape based on the first one. It was an alternative one with much more of his interpretation of the video work. And it was really beautiful and it was great and it was so generous, but I had to get used to it because we already finished one. But then he said, but it's for cinema. And I had the opportunity with off-screen to show it in IFR Antezzo. Marieke, yeah. And Charlie was right. It was really beautiful, the soundscape, and it really worked very well in the cinema. So I was very grateful.
That's great to hear. Last question for you. What are you working on at the moment?
I changed my studio from the Lloydstraat to the bedroom of my girlfriend. So the place is a lot smaller, and I'm trying to put all the instruments, 3 speaker systems into my girlfriend's bedroom. So there was no place for the bed anymore, and she said, okay, I go to sleep in your bedroom. I said, yeah, that is a very good idea because it's a lot smaller. So it's what I think, the assistant of the maker, behind the maker. Maybe we will be honored next time.
Next time. Thank you, Charly van Rest.
Hey,
Thank you, Mirjam and Priscilla. The next, sorry, we have flowers. I forgot that. He already got his award. So, the next award is the Barry KOEDAM Award. I could try to tell more about it and why it was created. But the clip of Richard Jonathan will explain it all. So let's watch it.
Ik kwam al als kind in musea en ik ben altijd heel erg geïnteresseerd geweest in beeldende kunst. Maar vooral ook andere kunsten, dus muziek en ballet. Ik heb ook zelf nog een beetje balletlessen gehad. Maar beeldende kunst raakte mij het meeste. Het visuele vond ik altijd heel belangrijk.
Je hebt op een gegeven moment ook een galerie opgericht.
Ja, dat was in 86. En dat heb ik gedaan omdat ik als kunstenaar toch het heel moeilijk vond om mijn eigen werk onder de aandacht te brengen, maar ik kon dat wel goed veranderen.
Op een gegeven moment heb je ook de ramfoundation opgericht.
Ja, omdat ik vond dat alleen het werk tonen niet voldoende was. Dus ik wilde ook graag ja, vooral mensen ook betrekken bij de kunst. Dat is eigenlijk wat ik altijd graag wilde. Dus bemiddelen, maar ook lezingen, symposia, workshops. Dus dat hebben we allemaal in de stichting gedaan.
Precies, want welk jaar was dat je de stichting...
De stichting heb ik in 1994 opgericht.
Eigenlijk vanaf 1990 ben je al een van onze vaste bezoekers.
Ja, die periode was heel erg interessant in de stad. Ja, heel bruisend en heel veel goede activiteiten, heel positief. Ja, ja. Moet maar weer gebeuren, vind ik.
In 2020 hebben we een samenwerking opgestart. Jij vertelde toen dat je plannen had om een award op te richten. En kun je iets vertellen over hoe die award tot stand gekomen is?
Ja. Nou, mijn man en ik hebben op een gegeven moment bedacht dat als we in de financiële omstandigheden zouden zijn, dat we kunstenaars konden helpen, maar dan op een financiële manier wilden we graag allebei een prijs in het leven roepen. Ik vind kunst heel belangrijk. Waarom? Omdat kunstenaars altijd voor inlopen in de tijd, vooruitzien. En dat zie je ook nu op allerlei tentoonstellingen. En dat zie je ook bij de afstudeerstudenten. Dat ze heel erg bezig zijn met de maatschappij. En dat soort dingen vind ik heel belangrijk. De concepten achter de kunstenaar. De taal van de kunstenaar. Dat zijn hele belangrijke dingen voor mij. Daar kun je ook van opladen.
Dustin Thierry is the recipient of the Barry KOEDAM Award, the first edition of it. He is not in the Netherlands. He's not in Rotterdam. He's in Costa Rica, so we don't have to feel sorry about that. He won't join us here, but one of the jury members, artist and photo expert Matthew Antezzo is here. Please join on stage, and Melly's director Sofia Hernández. Please give them a warm welcome. Sofia, I want to start with you. We celebrate the cultural ecosystem today. Why is it important to recognize the role of visual documentation?
Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming here. I'm very excited, I have to say. The role of visual documentation, one of the things that we wanted to really do to celebrate our 30th anniversary, which of course hasn't been very celebratory because of the COVID pandemic and many other things associated too, was that we wanted to celebrate not just the fact that we had been here for 30 years, presenting art in exhibitions and welcoming a public, but that we were able to do everything that we did at the institution, at that time called Witte de Wiet, and now Kunstinstituut Melly, precisely because the ecosystem in Rotterdam, the cultural community, the artistic community in Rotterdam, was so strong and had made this institution happen. So instead of celebrating our birthday or anniversary, we wanted to celebrate that ecosystem that we are part of and sometimes have forgotten about. And the idea of that meant that we also wanted to thank the people that very much had made things happen, and not just the institutions. And when we had found a number of people that were interested in also sponsoring awards, the idea was that we focused on people behind the scenes that may not be celebrated or very public, but that have paved the way for artists to make work, for art to be known, and for publics to come to art. So in the case of photography or photo documentation, we were looking not at artists that work with photography as a medium, but specifically people that have photographed artworks, as in objects or art events, or art installations and exhibitions, or art communities and art parties. And the idea...
Art parties?
Art parties as well, and there was actually a couple of portfolios that were devoted to that.
Because
and
how does the nomination process work?
Yeah, so we contacted, Barry gave us a carte blanche to be able to run the award. And she said, let me just be part of it so that we are aware that it is really diverse in terms of who we contact and that there are people from different generations. We made a group of about 50 different people that were museum directors or are museum directors and curators, registrars, people in newspapers, photo editors, and art
And did
editors.
they write love letters, or what could you take?
Well, it's interesting. We'll talk about the love letters. When we talk about the makers of the Makers Award, or makers behind the makers, there were love letters. So in the case of the nominations for the Barry KOEDAM, it was people saying, such and such photographer, one actually who passed away during the process, has installed my work, or has worked for this newspaper, or has designed and also photographed the works for the catalog and publication. These were people that were the conduits, or that their images were the conduits to inform people of the artwork and the exhibitions that were taking place, and the arts communities, as it was with Dustin, Thierry. In terms of the love letters, the ones of the Barry KOEDAM Award were very professional. They spoke much of resume. The one where Charly won the award and where Priscilla and Mirjam participated, actually, that was an open call. And artists were invited to nominate. Only artists in the Netherlands could nominate a maker that had helped them. And the artists, they're very intelligent. Sometimes they're also very emotional, as we know. And when they presented a collaborator or a fabricator or a framer or an engineer, or Charly in this case, they really wrote love letters. With this person, if they hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done that. Like really, and of course, the nominations were about specifying in which way that maker had allowed you to take a work to a next level, or to do something that you would be unable to do so if you didn't have collaboration. So every nomination for all of these awards have been very beautiful, very moving. And also they have been so because it is, they are awarding people that allow us to see the world in a different way. That's what we mean by ecosystem, that you just don't see it alone, you see it with others that allow you to see something different, better.
Was it a difficult choice, Matthew, for the jury?
I wouldn't say it was difficult. I would say that there was a process that we went through, and we were able to look at many very talented and very interesting artists that work in this field. And it was when you have this many different choices, you have to kind of systematize it in a way, and you have to look at it with some distance. And then we discussed, and we came to this conclusion through all of our ways of looking at it that this was the choice, and it was a good agreement, and we felt very good about the process.
And how would you describe his work?
I would describe his work as very emotional in a way, that he's looking at a community that comes through his own identity, through his relationship to family, and also through his own journey. And I believe that he has a lot of compassion for his community, and he has a lot to offer and give, and wants the world to know about this community. And so I think that his intention is very important in what he's bringing forward. And I think that this is something that I recognize as a jury member, and also as an artist, and as someone who works in the photographic industry, that it was also something very timely. It was also of our time, that this was really speaking to us.
Reflecting on
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And did you phone him, or because he's not here? How was his reaction? Or did you phone him, or how?
Yeah, I've actually spoke with him recently, and he sends his thanks to all of you and his regards to all of you, and he's doing. I think he was very pleased to have this award, of course, and it was very helpful to him. Came in at a moment. Sometimes this happens with an artist. You get a grant, or that it just comes at the right time.
Why was it the right time?
Well, it is like I think as we know, it is a cash prize, and this is very important, artists. I've received grants, and I know when that grant comes, it just opens things. And it takes a lot of pressure off of certain other things that you're looking to. That opens a path for you to do your work, and that's the most important thing, I think, is to be able to, for an artist to be able to do their work. Yes.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I only chaired the jury, and it was quite interesting to see. There was a museum director, a magazine founder, and you, who is both an artist and also a photography expert. But one of the things that was quite important and interesting of the nominations, and that we discussed at length, is that there were, by and large, two types of portfolios that were submitted. There were the artists that had been nominated because they were commissioned by institutions to take and make documentation. And then they were the artists that used the camera with a self-motivation to document the art scene and the art parties and the gatherings and openings and art events and such, which is one of the things that you could see now with Instagram and social media, right, is that we get to see so many exhibitions no longer through magazines and through the press, but specifically through the way in which social networks have popularized the documentation of events and exhibitions. But here we're talking about people that were either very young, mid-career, or also photographers that had a long experience with the camera. And you could identify, independently of the generation, who was commissioned to document and who was self-motivated.
How did you see that immediately?
Most of you see it because there's an aesthetic associated to that, I would say, in terms of architecture and the lens. And every artist, every photographer creates their own perspectives, which is very beautiful also to analyze images that document exhibitions, is that there are many different ways of doing so. And artworks or objects of art for catalogs, every artist has its own way. But in the case of this one, you were able to notice, because most of the art events and the art communities that we were looking at were of communities that you rarely see in such a way. For example, I don't want to say because there's one artist whose portfolio was nominated, whose portfolio remains there, but that used Polaroids, so you know already that that's not being commissioned necessarily because of the chosen medium, which is temporal. So it's difficult to document something with an ephemeral media. But in the case, or more ephemeral, in the case of Dustin, what was very evident was that it was a self-motivated project because these images were presenting groups of people that were in another culture that's not the so-called contemporary art scene, even though they're also in contemporary visual culture. But it was clearly not one that was a part of the mainstream, I would say. So that's one of the things, how can you make visible all the communities that are operating at once, and they
in the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands and elsewhere that just don't follow the same tropes, the aesthetic tropes. No? Yeah.
You missed a phone call, Matthew.
I'll call back.
Yeah. And in the case of Dustin, I think that it was a very timely award indeed, and we gave it, it was the first one that we were able to give. We celebrated with Barry in a brunch in the middle of when they had just lifted the first COVID, and with a group of people. And I would say that we actually announced the award at the same time that his exhibition opened at the Van Abbe Museum. So for him, it was really a number of things that were taking place. A number of these works were on exhibition there at the Van Abbe in Eindhoven. And so, yeah, it was suddenly a great exposure that gave visibility not only to his work and to his ideas and trajectory, but also to the different communities that he has been representing and portraying in his and through his camera. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We're heading to the last award, the Visionary Award. Aruna Vermeulen is the winner of the Visionary Award. As co-founder and director of Hip Hop House, she fosters a space to express cultural production, embodied knowledge, disciplines and ways of life that have been until recently largely disregarded. Let's watch a clip.
Ja, hip-hop is eigenlijk een plek waar ik altijd terecht kan. Als ik het moeilijk heb, kan ik er altijd terecht, want daar zijn de antwoorden. Basically, hip-hop heeft de antwoorden. Ik ben Aruna Vermeulen, 45, geboren en getogen in Rotterdam. Ik heb 2 zoons en ik werk bij het Hip Hop Huis. Mijn functie heet algemeen directeur en mijn rol is dat ik leiding geef aan de hele organisatie en mensen met elkaar verbind, zodat we vooruit kunnen gaan.
Ik zou het Hip Hop Huis omschrijven als een centrum waar mensen komen om te leren over hiphopcultuur, te beleven over hiphopcultuur, maar eigenlijk ook een thuis weg van huis, waar mensen met dezelfde hobby's, passies en soms helemaal niet elkaar vinden.
I can't think of like a hip-hop center that does dance classes, music classes, programming, culture, history, all of those things under one roof. So I think Hip Hop House is really, really unique.
Zoals wij 20 jaar geleden zijn begonnen, hadden we meer een doel naar buiten toe. Waarvan we zeiden, wij zijn een breakdancegemeenschap. En wij willen hiphop op de kaart zetten. Terwijl voor ons stond het op onze eigen kaart. Ik bedoel, we aten, dronken, sliepen, ademen hiphop. We werden niet in ieder geval gezien als kunstenaars of als artiesten. Maar ook als een groep van... Men wist vaak niet zo goed wat ze met ons moesten. Nou, daar is niet zo heel veel in veranderd. Alleen de plekken waarop dit gesprek gevoerd wordt is wel heel erg veranderd. Hiphop is voor iedereen nu een onderdeel van gesprek.
Ik zou Aruna omschrijven als iemand die aan de ene kant harde resultaten wil behalen, maar altijd wel het menselijke aspect daarin wil meenemen.
Ze heeft een bepaalde visie en ze wil dat ook altijd wel waarmaken, maar wel samen, waardoor andere mensen ook groeien.
Ik ben een beetje awkward met awards. In feite vind ik dat soms ook heel lastig om een award te ontvangen. In dit geval voelde het gewoon oprecht en ook hoe het tot stand is gekomen en de motivatie vond ik heel tof. Met name het punt waarin het ging over een soort van collective leadership. Vond ik heel interessant om die term te horen van buitenaf. Omdat je niet bewust bent dat zoiets wat intern speelt ook buitenaf gevoeld wordt.
Please welcome already Aruna Vermeulen and nominator Florian Cramer. Hello, or what you like? Good to see you both, Aruna. It's quite something to win an award as a visionaire. Do you look at yourself in that way as well? Sometimes.
Well, sometimes I think of that when other people tell me I change my mind all the time, or I'm not clear about what I want and what you do want now, you know. So I think, oh yeah, that's because I'm a visionary, and that's what I realize now.
Okay. I was. My youngest son is dancing, or stopped now dancing because he has other things in his mind. But I was asking, so I was there a lot as a father, but I never see you dancing. Do you still dance?
Not as much as I think is good for me, to be honest. But I feel that dancing to me is not only a thing that you do with your body, but it's also a mind state. Mm-hmm. This is how I actually see myself as a dancer. It's how I carry myself. Mm-hmm. And it's not only when I'm on the dance floor.
The Hip Hop House is really a community. Mm-hmm. It's a house, or maybe a second house for people. How are these times where we are in a pandemic and people, I don't know what will be announced tomorrow, but people were not able to meet each other and maybe are not able to. How would you describe what happens to your community?
Yeah, it's really stopping us from being in a flow, because you're always, it's really disturbing what's happening in our communities, because as Leal said in the video, it's not only a place where you go for the arts, but it's also a second home where you meet other people, where you can share ideas, or maybe you can share frustration. And that part, I think we were not prepared to lose that. Because the art is so much more than the actual expression of it. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we realize. So it's hard on our team, but I think it's really hard for the people that lose access to it.
Mm-hmm. Is there a way that people can still find each other, that they still meet, or?
I think it's very different for each individual, but I see a lot of people lose.
Mm-hmm. Is there online translation for hip hop?
Well, there's a lot of things happen online, mm-hmm. and we also make an effort to do stuff online, and people will find each other outside of us as well, but it's not even close mm-hmm. to the actual experience. So
they miss each other.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, we miss each other. Yeah.
Florian, you have nominated Aruna. My first question is, does there run any hip hop through your veins?
I really need to give somebody else the credit really for that, and that's her. That's Moor Mother. Maybe mm-hmm. you also know her as an experimental hip hop artist, and she's also part of the Black Quantum Futurism Collective, which is a contemporary art collective. And actually, I've worked with her for now more than 7 years. We're friends, and she saw a performance of Hip Hop House and was really impressed. And that was
what did impress her? What?
The quality of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was something. Let's say from her point of view. Let's say from somebody who's really deeply coming from also from a hip-hop, DIY and punk experimental community, that was something that she appreciated from that point of view. My own appreciation is a little bit different. I work as a reader at the Ronde Koning Academy, and I would say, also with a little bit of jealousy, I must say, the Hip-Hop House, has been doing for more than 10 years what institutions such as ours, but also I think this institution here, are trying or striving to do and to
and
be.
what can we learn of Hip Hop House?
Yeah, how to build a real community. You know, how to use intersectionality not just as, let's say, a kind of hip, fashionable word, but give it real body and give it real practice. You know, be genuine in this. How to also rethink the whole idea of what we understand as, you know, artist, who's public, who's curator, to completely mix up these roles and turn this into a genuine network and community. These are all things, you know, that everyone discusses when we talk about commons, when we talk about intersectionality, and very often that's academic. It's not academic, it really lives at Hip Hop House and has real value.
Great to hear. Do you have any advice for institutions, or how do you look as I'm now asking this question as a visionary to you.
Advice in this time?
Yes.
I don't know.
For cultural institutions, because you see a lot of institutions in Rotterdam struggle with these kinds of themes.
Yeah, well, I have to say I don't anymore, because obviously a lot of times people come to us for advice, but all these words, we don't speak about that, right? It's not, we do it, and we don't, the trick is sometimes when we overthink it, we actually lose it. So I think it's not up to us to advise, actually, so. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine if I would be a cultural institution, might not be in Rotterdam, but in Amsterdam or somewhere, I would try to arrange a transfer would ask you to go, not you. You're already saying no. we won't let her go away from Rotterdam.
No, it's also extractivist, you know, that's what always happens. This is how you destroy such communities, if you try to extract them.
Is it a community you always be a part of it?
I think so. Yeah, and then not because I work there, but because the mind state is there, and my ecosystem is there. And what the question you asked, and I think what you also say is like it takes an effort to say no, to be extracted, and to actually focus on doing what you're doing, because in times like this, it's already challenging. Without all these questions being asked, and this pressure put onto us from the rest of the institutions.
There's this appreciation now with this award. In the clip you were talking about 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I'm not sure, we were putting it on the map. Do you feel that the city has embraced the Hip Hop House?
If I look in our doors, definitely. The city knows where to find us, so definitely. And I think when it comes to policymakers, I don't think they understand us, really understand us.
And what do they not understand?
Oh, well, I don't know what they don't know, but I feel it. I feel that...
A distance or something?
I feel that they think it's useful for the city, and that it's something that a lot of people have access to that the rest of the sector doesn't reach. So they see that there's something there that works, but I don't think they actually fully understand what dynamics, what methods, what vision is behind that. So that's what I really like about the prize, that it's not for diversity, or it's not, but it's because of the vision, and that's what I really appreciate.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you, Florian. We have flowers for you, Aruna, and maybe for your mom, which is in the audience. Aruna Vermeulen. we're at the end of the program. I hope you're inspired by the award winners and their work and their vision. Do know that the open call for the second edition of the Maker Achter de Maker Award, the Makers of the Makers Award, launches tomorrow. So please do send your love letters to Melly. This program was organized by Melly's team. Special thanks to Angelica Kool, Line Cramer, Jeroen Laven, Julia Mokute. Sorry to pronounce your name falsely, but thanks for the flowers. Sarah van Overheem. Thank you for watching us and being with us. On behalf of Melly, I also want to thank the supporters and partners who made these awards possible. The Mondriaan Fund, Droom and Daad, and ramfoundation. Of course, special thanks to the awardees and our speakers, and let's raise our glass to them and hope to see you again in this institution and otherwise elsewhere. Thank you very much. There's a reception held just outside of this door in the hall. So could stay, but you can also join us. Oh, sorry, the reception is here. The drinks are outside.